Hey guys, in this video we're going to be painting the little barn shed thing, the snowy winter scene. To get started, obviously get your canvas out. You're going to need your paints put out on your plate. I've got titanium white, Mars black, bright red, phthalo green, and this burnt orange color is called Venetian red. You're also going to need paper towels on hand to dry your brushes, and a jar or a cup of sorts to keep water in to clean out your brushes. And then of course brushes, an assortment of different sizes. To get started, let's see. I feel like I probably need, do I want a Sharpie? I don't think so. I think I'm okay. I think I should be able to see everything just fine. To start, I am going to do the sky, and we're going to kind of make it a dreary, snowy day. So I need some gray. We're going to use gray. It's going to be a medium to dark, well, medium to light shade. So some black, a nice scoop of white. Stir that all together. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. It's once in a while I'll go back and watch a video, at least partially, and I see that my hand is always in the way. I'm sorry for that. Try to make a mental note to not do that. No promises. So something about like that. It can be a little darker than what the final product is going to be, because we are going to be blending white in while we work, because we want it streaky. So I'm just going to start at the top. While that is wet, important that it's still wet, we're going to blend white in. And you don't want to over blend because you want it streaky. Just enough to kind of smooth the paint out. A little more white, more gray. Just going to get this all filled in. And make sure you're getting the canvas covered well. You don't want little spots, little pieces coming through. Make sure you get your paint down in there good. This is starting to look not streaky. So let me get some more white in there. As I go downward, probably use more white, less gray. I'll keep the top a little bit darker. I'm kind of gonna dodge these little tree shapes. I just put like the shape to help you keep the size and the tapering of the tree. You will extend the size and overlap into the background, but I'll explain that better later when we do it. So you don't have to be perfect on your edge of your tree, because it'll not matter. I am trying to keep my brush strokes horizontal, just nice left to right. Let's streak a little bit more white in, just so it looks a little cloudier. And this is dry It's not blending well, so just take a little bit of gray, help kind of smush it around. I just want some nice streaks so it looks cloudy, snowy day. A little gray, help blend that. Maybe at the top, get a little bit more gray in. I even want to darken that up a little. I'm going to just add a little bit more black into my gray, just so it's just a little bit darker. Doesn't take much. And just a little at the top. And streak it in. There. Good enough. I like it. Next, let's do the snow area. I'm gonna do white to start, and I will add a little gray in to put some shadows. I'm gonna get my brush cleaned out. And just with white paint, I'm gonna come in. You don't have to be too particular with your lines because the paint doesn't really cover them all the way. You can still see through the paint. But if you want, take your time and go around them. But it's not necessary. You can save yourself the hassle and just allow yourself to be a little messy. Make sure you have nice, smooth, even coat. You don't want big globs of paint. You want it spread out evenly. Okay, so just a little bit of my gray. I'm not cleaning my brush, so a little bit of gray on my dirty brush. And just very lightly kind of streak a little in. Maybe here. Maybe a little over here. And if you get too much, no worries. Take a little white, go right over it. Or if it's not wanting to blend, take a little white and it will blend for you. So something like that. A little more in here. There. Fabulous. Now, since I've got the little gray on my brush, I'm gonna do my dark gray. Just a little more black in with my gray, kind of like what I added up here. Could even be a little darker. Get my hand out of the way. And right up next to the barn, sketching a little, I'm gonna kind of bring it down. Be a little in here and a little down here. Then I'll take more white on my brush. So I have a lighter gray. So dirty brush with a dark gray, scooped up some white to the side just to make a lighter version. And I am gonna work quickly because I want this to be blendable. I can always add some more dark in if I need to. But I wanna get this all spread out. Just a little white. Just taking a little white on my brush. 'Cause it's there. Okay, so now I need to add in a little bit more dark. I'm gonna wipe my brush, not really clean it. I'm just gonna wipe it off on my towel. Take a little bit more of my dark gray. And I'm gonna have my brush strokes go side to side. I don't wanna just curve it in. I wanna help it look like it's back in space. So some of the dark gray. Maybe just a little white. I'm gonna wipe my brush off because that gray's in there. Take a little bit of my white. This lip of my easel drives me crazy. And just left to right, very lightly. A little bit more of the dark gray, especially up here. There. Can adjust it later if need be. I'm gonna soften the edge so it doesn't just go from white to gray. I'm gonna take just a little bit of white. So right on my edge, I'm just gonna kind of clean that up. Overlap a little, especially in the dark areas, because the dark paint will show through and it creates kind of like this little shadow. And that's just because I'm overlapping the white onto it. Kind of creates like a little snowbank where the snow is kind of piled to the sides. There we go. So let's see, let's do all our little trees. I'm gonna clean up my brush. We're gonna be using the green. And these are just gonna be very easy, like scribbly trees. So I'm gonna darken it just a little and add some black. Just to take that brightness out, dull it just a little. And I'm gonna take a little scoop of white. Now I kind of see my color better. So it's just dulled just a smidge with that black, the white. I'm just gonna roll the excess off my brush. Let's start with the back trees. I might need a smaller brush actually for those little back trees. Just depends on the size of your canvas. Mine are tiny because I got the 8x10, but if you're working with the 16x20, your brush sizes can change according to your canvas size. And start small, and I just kind of wiggle in my brush. It's okay if I overlap into my barn. I'll be covering that later. And start at the top and just kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And you're just going just outside that kind of triangle shape that was sketched on. It's just a guide, help you with placement and size. I'm just kind of scribbling. When we add the white, it will look better. Right now it's just kind of a base. Trying to keep my hand out of the way so you can see. I'm gonna bring that one down. I don't know if I drew with my box down, but, or my triangle, whatever. But I'm gonna pull that down to the bottom so it's even with the barn. Keep my hand out of the way for you. This one I'll also do about even. Then I got this big one. And I've got these bigger ones here in front. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry. I'm gonna blow it dry. to put some white on. Use my small brush still. Some white paint. And it's okay if it's not perfectly clean. A little bit of green is fine. And this pie isn't perfectly dry, which is fine. And I'm just gonna kind of scribble in little bits of white. So like it looks like they've caught snow. Got our trees. Now we can, let's see, we can either put in the barn next or add the like dead winter trees, I guess. Not really dead, but you know, the trees with no leaves. Let's get our barn started, shall we? I'm gonna use my medium-sized brush and I'm gonna mix up a color. I want kind of a burgundy red, so black. Doesn't take a lot though. With quite a bit of red. Just to darken it slightly. If it's purple, you've added way too much black. To fix that, just take a little bit of the color you've made that looks purple, like scoop it to the side, and then add more red. Because if you've got a big pile of that dark purpley red color, it's gonna take probably more red than I've given you to fix it. So just correct a small portion of it with more red and you'll be perfectly good to go. So I'm just gonna come in and paint. I'm gonna do up and down strokes. It'll help it look like there's boards. Get my edge. That's where it kind of gets tricky to do up and down. But if you get it in there, get your paint in there, and then pull it down before it dries, you're pretty okay. Sure you're getting all the little white pieces of the canvas covered. So that's pretty good. And it's okay that it's a little streaky because that helps, again, make it look like it's weathered and made of old barn boards. I'm going to make this a little darker now, quite a bit more black. So now your purpley red comes in handy. And along the edge, across the roof, and I am kind of downward motion to keep my brush strokes up and down. And then kind of come around the edge a little. This isn't a lot of paint on my brush, very little paint. Maybe flick up a little at the bottom, darken a little over there. That looks pretty good. This little spot, there's this little section kind of overhangy. Get that filled in. If you painted it red, that's fine. You'll just cover it with this dark red. And I'm gonna take just a little black on my dirty brush, and then kind of blend, like mix it with the dark red that's on my brush already, just to make it a little bit darker. And then really kind of get in there right on the edge, just to define that. Just very little paint on your brush. Does not take much. You can always put more in, but once you've got a bunch on, it's hard to get rid of it. So it looks pretty good to me. Let's do the door. We'll add a door in. I'm gonna use my small brush, the small square one. Probably use it on the edge so I can get a more fine line. And using black and dark red, just so that it's dark, pretty much the same color we just added, that darker version of our dark red. And I'll start at the path and go up, create my door. Maybe, how far up do we need to go? I'm gonna maybe come up to about here. So I'm just using the path as my guide. Try to get them the same height so I don't have a crooked door. Put a little seam in the middle. I'll do that a little thinner. This line is thicker than the seam. So there we have our door. We will add a wreath in, but we're gonna let that dry. While that's drying, we're gonna do the roof. We're gonna just some white, clean up our edge work. I'm gonna clean up the bottom as well, kind of mound the snow a little bit better where it's at the base of the barn. So down here I'll start, and I'm just gonna kind of soften that edge a little. And I'm going to paint the roof. I'm gonna blow this dry because I really want to rest my hand and I don't want to smear paint everywhere. That should be good enough. Should be safe. Okay. Let's do, well, I guess it's all awkward. Oh no! So we have that. And now I'm going to put in some little icicles. I'm going to use the very edge of my brush so I get a skinny little line. If you want to use a small, like, long, skinny liner brush, feel free. I'm just going to kind of scribble in some little overhangies, little icicles. I'm going to move my hand so you can see what the hell I'm doing. And I'll probably have to add another quick coat on top of that just because that red really does kind of show through. You make some longer than others, just like icicles would be dangling. There, that looks pretty. For the wreath, I'm gonna paint a white circle first because otherwise that green isn't really gonna show up all that well. Or maybe I'll just make a really light green so it's not. So I'm just gonna add quite a bit of white to my green. Just to start my wreath, I need kind of a base layer to help it show up on that dark red. And let's put it so that it's slightly above the top. We've got kind of this circle shape. And I'm gonna kind of rough up the edges a little. I don't want it perfect, I want it kind of fluffy. So I'm just, to get my circle shape, I'm gonna mess it a bit. Mess it a little on the inside too. There we go, nice fluffy wreath. I need that to dry before I can move on. So let's go into the trees. We need to make a nice brown color. I know nobody likes painting trees, but they aren't that bad. You can, so I'm gonna make brown, black and orange, Venetian red. Maybe, yeah, just so that it makes a nice shade of brown. But yeah, trees are pretty forgiving because trees don't have to look exactly like what I do. The branches can go any which way you want. I'm gonna add a little bit more black. I want it more of a gray brown. When I add white, because I've added more black, it's gonna have more of a gray tone to it. You'll see once I add white. It's okay that there's gray in that white. So now you can kind of see the grayness to it. If yours doesn't look like that, just add a little bit more black. Again, my hand is probably in the way. So something like that. And using this brush, right in this little spot here, let's see, I'm gonna go up. To the other side, make it a trunk. And then I'm gonna add some snow in there later to make it look more like the snow has kind of piled up against it. But yeah, just whichever way you want your branches to go. And have this one come over here a little. I need to clean my brush. It's too fat. So if I have a nice clean brush, I can get a thinner line. Right now, because I use it to mix a color, it's holding a lot of paint. And when it's holding all that paint, it spreads the bristles out. If you have a nice clean brush, you can get those bristles to lay nice and flat, and you can get a nice thin line. Because the paint likes to get shoved down in the base here, and it will pull your bristles apart. So it's important that you clean your brush as well. Even when you're done, clean them up, store them, you're gonna get all the paint out of that base. That's what ruins brushes the most. Dried up paint gets caught down in the base of these bristles and spreads them apart, and then you don't want to use them because they don't work good. All right, now I should be able to get nice thin lines. And I can switch to my smaller brush to get more detail-y ones put in. And let's do one over here. This one's gonna go right on the edge. And let's start it down about here. So this whole area is gonna be filled in. His trunk is going off the side of the canvas. And let's give him some branches. Let's put him up all the way here. Let's switch to the smaller brush so I can put in some small twigs and taper out some of my big ends. If some of them do get a little funky, a little bigger than you like, we're gonna put some snow up in there, and that's gonna help. You can thin out a lot of your branches just by layering snow. It's a wonderful thing. Let's put a weird little guy here. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm gonna make a lighter version of my brown. like a nice scoop of white, stir it in. Gonna put just some kind of variations in the bark. Just gonna kind of streak a little on. Don't worry about the little tiny branches so much. They're gonna have snow. And take a little black, give me my darker brown. Let me add a little bit more orange. A little more orange. A little more black. Sort of darker, just a little bit darker. I'm gonna roll that white off. I don't need that white mixing in. You can add a little bit of dark. That's pretty subtle. But if you do get too much of the light on, you can always put a little bit brown back on and you're good to go. Now I'm just going to take white and get my snow piled on. Let me find a clean spot of white. Oh, brown. Some white. And on my branches, just where snow would gather, just kind of tap in little piles of snow. There. Might as well go ahead and do my snowflakes. Since I got white on my brush, I'm just gonna go in and just tap it all over. Put some snow. As much or as little as you like. You can get on the trees, not that you can really see it. Some coming on the barn. And now we'll finish up our wreath. So right now it looks goofy. So I'm gonna add more black to my mixed green that we made earlier. It's a little bit darker. Just gonna dab on, get that light green covered up. And let's put some snow on that. So let's see. Probably should wait for it to dry, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna collect it on the top here. Down in here. And there's our wreath. If you want to put a bow on it, feel free. I don't really know if it's going to show up that well. Part of me wants to. Maybe just a little one. Let's paint it pink first. Kind of like prime it so it'll show up. So I'm going to put a pink bow on and then I'm going to paint it red. Let's put it down here. Still got a lot of green that's wet. I'm just kind of dab it in. Maybe some. And then when that's dry, I'll paint it red. I just kind of dabbed in kind of a fluffy shape. And it's okay that that dark color shows through because that's going to create shadows. So when we paint it red, that dark is still going to be showing through, but underneath the red, so it'll look like dark red. Let me just hit it with my blow dryer quick so I can finish up. Just a little bit of red on my brush. Same kind of dabbiness. And it's okay if you're sloppy because it doesn't show up. You can't tell that you're sloppy. And done. I think I'm done. Let me just step back. I got snow, trees, little path. I think it looks nice. I'm gonna sign my name. Maybe a little gray down there. Add a little water to my paint. Helps it flow on better. There's a red on my brush. I don't want to sign in pink. Squeeze it in right here. Fabulous. All right, we're all done. I hope you enjoyed painting this with me. Keep an eye out for more tutorials, more kits for take home. Trying to add new ones. Hopefully I post another one that you like, and you'll be watching me again. Thanks a bunch.